Hello, Miguel Feliz. Welcome.
Hi, how are you? Sorry.
Let me hear you. Welcome again. Hello to all audience watching us now. I am Gökşen Ak, a passive house designer and an architect from Turkey. And welcome, dear participants. Miguel Feliz again. You look perfect, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, dear audience, let me tell you about the sessions program. Our session will be 90 minutes. Our speakers have 30 minutes, and at the end of the session, I will direct the questions to them. You can ask your question from zerobuild.org website or YouTube comments. So take your coffee and enjoy as we do now. Our speakers, one of our speakers, Miguel Feliz. Let me introduce him now. Miguel Feliz is a senior expert with more than 20 years of field experience. Since 2015, he has been a partner of S317 Consulting, global consulting firm working in the fields of energy, water, waste, carbon, and sustainability. Has coordinated several international projects for different governments and international private and non-governmental companies in Europe, Africa, Asia, and USA. Started his career as MEP contractor. He designed complex HVAC and BMS building systems, working extensively as a consultant for energy efficiency. In the last years, he has worked in managing energy services for B2B and B2C, in developing green finance tools, and working in the water energy nexus. Miguel Feliz holds an MBA from London Business School and a BSc in Mechanical Engineering from Instituto Superior Técnico in Lisbon. Presentation title, Concepts in the Existing Building Stocks, Challenges for the Near Future. So, Mr. Feliz, if you are ready to begin, we are listening to you.
Okay, thank you. First of all, very good Portuguese in the end of the presentation, so you can move on to Lisbon wherever you want. So I will try to share my screen.
Please.
To start the presentation, let me see. Okay, are you seeing this?
Yes, we can see.
Okay. Are you seeing this? Yeah?
Yes, we can see your presentation now.
Perfect.
That works.
So, yeah, let me just put here. Are you seeing the presenter view or are you seeing the normal view?
Actually, we can see. Please, you can start.
Okay, so you already told the title of the presentation. So the idea here is to talk about a little bit of how you can manage net zero or near zero energy buildings in the existing building stock. So what are the challenges for the near future? So first of all, let us start with the trends in buildings. So we know that they consume, this is 2018 data, they consume around 20% of the overall energy use in the world, and they will consume around 22% of the energy use in 2050. So it will increase in absolute value and in percentage. So we know it's growing and will grow more as we go over time. So the net zero concept will help to slow this trend, and it's very important. Like I think you must have been listening to all the sessions. They probably will say the same. But this is very important. It's almost our only tool, or the most important tool, to help and slow this trend. But firstly, I would like to discuss a little bit what zero are we talking about? What are you talking about when say net zero? So firstly, what's the N of the word? So it's net, it's nearly. What is the definition? What are the people talking about when they say net zero energy building? So there's a couple of different perspectives on this. So you have the American perspective, you have the European perspective. So they talked about net zero, they talk about nearly zero, they talk about zero energy. And so it's not very easy to know what the definition, what we are talking about when we say net zero.
Mr. Feliz,
Yes.
sorry to interrupt, but we are still seeing the cover page. Yes, and
okay.
I guess you shut down the slide mode, and that works now.
Okay, perfect. Just a little bit. And like this is okay.
This is okay. Could you please switch the pages up?
Perfect. Yeah. Like this, it's okay. Okay. Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. So sorry. I cannot see what I'm doing, so please interrupt when you see that something is wrong. So I was talking about the difference between the interpretation of the net zero and near zero and so on. But even in Europe, where I think it's the most advanced status of net zero buildings and the energy in buildings, about 40% of the member states, they don't have yet a detailed definition of what means nearly zero. And the 60% that already have a definition, the overall definitions are different from a country to another. So even in a coercive bloc like the European Union, no one has the same opinion regarding these issues. So the takeaway, I think, it's the efficient is the key. So could be net zero, could be nearly zero, but we have to be efficient, probably as efficient as we can be. The renewable energy is there to offset the residual consumption that it cannot be removed. And it's important to know what we are talking about when we say efficient and renewable and net zero and so on. Talk about emissions, are we talking about the final energy or primary energy? So it's important to know what are the issue that we are talking about. And probably more importantly, it's one definition fits all the criteria. It's important to have one definition, or can we live with several ideas about all these? Secondly, energy in buildings probably is a developed world problem. I think the common sense tells us that the big buildings, the energy intensive buildings are probably in the developed countries or the OECD countries or something, because that's the thing that we know and we read and we see in the TV and so on. So is this a concept that it's a developed world concept, or it's a overall global issue? We know that the overall building energy is higher in developed countries, and we know that per capita consumption is also higher. But nowadays it's like that. But how the situation will evolve in the next few years? So we know that the rate of increase in non-OECD countries, it's about 2% per year. So it's about 5 times faster than the OECD countries. So by 2025, they will be consuming the same. And above that, I think that the non-OECD countries will be the main driver for energy consumption in buildings in the world. So it's pretty much a global trend that will be felt across the globe. And I think that we must deal with that. So the takeaways, it's a global problem, and the consumption will grow everywhere. Can we find one solution that can fit all these different regions, all these different economies? I think that's one of the main difficulties of all this idea and concept of the net zero. New buildings are and will be a fraction of the building stock. So we already know, right? The net zero concept is associated with new buildings. For example, in the PBT in Europe, they require that the new buildings are going net zero, but the existing building stock is huge. So a solution for the future must be around the actual building stock. Even because it's very difficult to know the NZEB share of buildings, because, you know, like I told before, there are many differences in the concept, so it's difficult to know what is a net zero. But we know for sure that old buildings are much more in quantity than new buildings. So, for example, 50% of all residential buildings were built before 1970. So before there were building codes that require energy management and energy consumption requirements. And we know also that the new construction is, or even the renovation is scarce. So there's not, depends in country from country to country, but normally there's not a huge rate of new construction. 5%, less than 5% of all residential buildings were built after 2010 in the European community. And the energy renovation rate, it's well below 1% for non-residential buildings. So the building stock is very important to this. There will not be a change in the foreseeable future. So we have to rely on what we have now. So to achieve the emission targets in the building sector, the existing buildings have to be addressed. So even the one American organization, but world-based, the Green Building Council, they say for sure that we require mass-scale interventions to achieve the Paris Agreement levels. So, and we have to rely on the existing building stock. So how can we aim for the real causes? So what consumes energy in a building? So where can we improve? We have to be very sure of what to do because we don't have the money to do it all. So where can we act? We know that in residential buildings, the heating, water heating, space heating, consumes around 80% of the energy. So this is European Union data. Portugal is different from Germany. Germany is different from Turkey. But I think this gives a very good idea of the overall consumption. So we have electrical appliances and cooking that goes around less than 20%. So this is important to know because residential buildings, they have around 70% of the overall building area in Europe. So probably in Asia and Africa, it's even more than this. So the commercial buildings, they have, like we know, like we read in all the papers and all the books that talked about these issues. So it's the HVAC, it's the ventilation, air conditioning systems, and lighting that they take around 60%, 65% of the overall building energy. So these are, I think, the end users vectors, consumption vectors that we have to make sure to address in the future in every measure that is thought to get a little bit of the net zero to these new build, to these actual existing buildings. So the numbers. So let me get to this number 2. So in the European Union, you have 36% of the consumption is gas, natural gas or GPL, and 32% is electricity. So this goes really well with heating vector. So it's fairly difficult even so to get the benefits of renewables on this without changing the overall structure of the consumption in each building. So knowing these vectors is important, but which measures have the economic rationale for implementation? We have to make sure that we maximize the effect on the outcome, because the overall world, not just Europe, but everywhere, even more now, we have economical difficulties. The financing it's very limited for this. So we have to make sure that all the measures that we take upon buildings have to be targeted for maximize the effects on the outcome, which is, of course, reducing the carbon footprint and reducing the energy consumption. So we know for sure that for water heating, for example, using the solar panels, it's very beneficial. We know that space heating goes well with heat pumps, and to change a little bit of the fenestration, putting new windows on it. For lighting, for example, we have the LEDs and management systems for these, which are, I think it's very efficient and very prone to savings. So we have to realize that we cannot go everywhere, we cannot do everything. So we have to keep an eye on what is possible to do. So takeaways of this: go electrical, so have more efficient equipment, more renewables, and more automated control systems. Probably that small measures are better than big ones. So it requires less investment, requires less effort from the building owners, and requires less money to make. So, and of course, management and operation is fundamental. As we know, for sure, there's a lot of no value or low value measures that can be done with incredible effect in building operation and building consumption. So we have to make sure that everything is aligned to do this in a perfect and efficient way. So let me just sum up the presentation so far. So net zero is a liquid definition, so we never know what we are talking about, but we know that energy in buildings is a developed world problem right now, but it will be, even by the sheer market size, a worldwide problem. So we have to make sure that we have the tools to solve it everywhere. Because net zero buildings are still scarce, the energy targets will have to rely on action over the existing building stock. And with the known consumption vectors, the effort should be made for targeted measures that we know that are easy to do and possible to do with our reality in terms of economical and social issues that we are facing. So how to address the issue in the near future? While the net zero buildings are marginal in number. So we have to have an approach that settles all cases. So new buildings, old buildings, and so on, that can help the consumption trend to be stable, at least stable in the near future. To start, it's not an issue just for the building sector, but we have to have a concerted effort between public and private sector. So everyone has to be with all hands on deck to do this. So, and the main areas of intervention, firstly, is financing. So we have to sort out how to finance all this, because it's very nice to talk about net zero and to talk about energy efficiency, but someone has to pay. So we have to make sure that the financing tools are there to help this problem to be solved. Then it's addressing the part of the efficiency that we talked about in the net zero definition. So energy services. So we have to think and use a new generation of energy services and make available to all have the tools for this reduction in consumption to reduce the consumption to a minimum that can be offset by renewables. So renewables will offset the gap in reduction, which is possible in each site. So these three areas are the main, I think, the main areas for intervention. And I think the main areas that we have to think about when we are designing some policy that can make net zero buildings available to all right now, and to try to fill the gap in emissions and energy consumption in this sector. So the approach have to work for all, right? So some examples for the OECD countries, which normally have more mature energy markets, we have to rely on consumer strength. The consumers will ask for green solutions. So the millennials and everyone else, they rely on consumers to have their trends settled. So we have to rely on that to have the green wash of all this. So we have to use grants and smart finance to do this. So the government and the private sector has to think about how can we enable probably some measures using grants and some kind of finance, carbon finance, to offset these issues, and just rely on green supply. So we have a lot of utilities, for example, that serves the customers with green only electricity origins. So it's a nice F2, and it's a nice way to show that we can do, even with less effort from the consumers or from the end users, we can help to have this indirect offset for renewable. The non-OECD countries have different needs, I think. So we have to rely on simpler energy services based on digital mobile services to address the consumption vectors that we know that they are important with that reality. We have to rely always in education and training. So because, like we said before, the low cost or no cost energy management tools are easy to get, and probably what we need just a little bit of education and training from the people that uses energy to know this, and to sort out and to address energy communities. So renewables, small renewable production off-grid, or simple centralized heating systems, for example, could be solutions to solve the issue of energy consumption in buildings with the realities of different economies in different time frames. So the objective, like I said, is improve the performance of existing buildings while the new ones follow the path and goes through the process of being a mainstream. So we have private realities, we have the government realities, and we have things that we can do for existing buildings and for new buildings. The government here, it's always enabler. So they have the public buildings as an example, as a kind of a pioneering idea, but they have to rely on legislation, on regulation, on tax incentives, and so on for customers. But I think that the private sector, and the private sector being consumers and being developers and being everyone that is around building industry, they know that they can save money. So, or by less running costs, or by less billing in the energy costs. So it's a kind of a real marketing, saves resources, but also saves money. So we have to make sure that we address the leverage that can be done by each party, and to be sure that we talk the language that each party is willing to listen. So the governments, for example, they have to address the market inefficiencies, and probably through regulatory tools. So right now, for governments, we have the transnational treaties and directives and guidelines. So the Paris Treaty or the APBD directive in the European Union, which normally guides the national government action and set up the priorities for the governments. So the priorities are well, probably in the European Union there's more than these, but for example, Turkey, which is not European Union, you have a good national energy certification scheme. We have a very good building code in the energy sector. So and the government is now pushing for ZEB in public buildings too, and they are giving a lot of expert training. So all these, together with statistics, measurement, and verification, are essential tools for all the governments. This can be done in the richest country, or can be done in the poorest country. But I think that these regulatory and policy tools are very, very important to address the issue. And of course, the governments I think, are the only ones that can give us some clever finance to solve the issue of the gap of energy efficiency in buildings in terms of financing. We all know that the commercial banks, the commercial money, it's difficult to get into energy efficiency. There's a lack of bankability for the projects. They are technically difficult to understand. They lack the fixed income streams. This is important because this was the only thing that could put money, finance money for renewables, because especially with the feed-in tariffs fixed, they become fixed income streams. So it's kind of an annuity that is forecasted for 20, 25 years. So it's really easy to sort out the risk management of all this. But energy efficiency doesn't work like that. So it's difficult to do. It's very difficult for them, for the banking sector, to have risk management that can satisfy everyone. So what the governments can do, so they can give grants, right? So it's the easiest thing to do. They can set up the tools for the ESCOs and for energy finance market. They can make tax shields for energy efficiency. They can even set up more exotic tools like green bonds and carbon finance, or cross subsidiation for energy efficiency. So they can do a lot of tools to sort out this difficulty in bankability of small energy funds for especially housing and small consumption, which is difficult to set up, and it's well, I think it will be a real need for the future. So the private sector, which has to go hand in hand with the government, has one advantage, especially the more rich countries, because the consumers will demand green and efficient solutions. So there will be a push for all this. There's a trend that will engulf all the utilities and all the people that is working in energy. So, you know, first was the cost in the 1970s, then final energy, then we start talking about emissions. Now it's the full resource, full life cycle assessment and so on. So there's a green push. So I think in the richer countries, because the economy it's a bit more mature and people need for search for some different things when they have the money in the pocket. So energy projects will always have these components of efficiency and reduction of the carbon footprint, even if in old buildings or in newer buildings. So I think the trend is there, so we have to take advantage of that. That will make that the traditional utilities will focus on energy services. So the market will go with the flow, I think. So there will be no need for almost any outside intervention, because these will go, and we will see new business models. So I don't know, PV service, so energy as a service, on-bill financing. We are seeing a lot of different measures, a lot of different solutions to make these innovation and to make these services to be really trendy and to be really mainstream in the future, especially in the OECD countries. How to do this? So we talked about energy services, we talked about renewables, we talked about targeted actions. So let me give you a couple of real life examples. So they are not region specific. They happen a lot in Portugal and Western Europe, where we come from. They are examples, but they will show the trend. I think they will show some measures and some actions that were taken to solve all these problems, all these issues. So, for example, smart grants. We talked about finance and the governments can help with this. So grants and loans are essential for setting up energy efficiency schemes. So it's very important to be the enabler of all this energy efficiency, because it's sometimes they require a lot of upfront money, so it's not easy to do. And sometimes people, they don't see the value, they don't see where the money is coming from. It's difficult to see what's in it for me idea in these efficiency schemes. So smart grants are really important for this. I will give you a small example. It's the PPEC program, PPEC. It's run by the Portuguese Energy Regulator Authority, ERS. So what is happening here? We have the consumers that pays electricity and gas tariffs. So with this money, they set aside an energy efficiency fund. It's around 20 million euros for a 2-year time frame to make energy efficiency projects. So then they set up a tender, a bidding competition between utilities and some NGOs. They propose projects and they make a competitive bidding. Around 50 projects are chosen every 2 years. They run with a 50% grant and 50% it's consumer paid. So the projects they I don't know, from putting LED lights in houses in residential areas, or putting variable frequency drives in water utilities. There's a lot of measures that are proposed. But the point here is that with these 50% grant in each project, they can put around 50 million euros worth of projects in every 2 years, going from B2C to B2B, residential, industrial, even government. So it's a very well thought and a very good example of cross-subsidization. So this comes from consumer money. This comes from electricity and gas tariffs. So it's not free money, but it's a nice way to give back to the community and to solve a lot of problems in this area. So we talk also about the new energy services. What does that mean? So these energy services are services made by contractors or made by companies that are targeted for building consumption factors. So there's a lot of examples that we can do. Who is giving it these? Could be ESCO providers, could be contractors, could be window makers, for example, could be municipalities, wherever. There's a lot of entities that can help and that can be around these programs. How this is done? So it's a government problem. Could be utility services, could be consumer associations that does this. But basically, you set up programs and you set up products that goes to address, for example, the water heating. So you set up a program that puts solar panels for hot water in the top of the buildings, in the top of the houses, and they pay for that. So it's or changing the lights of the residential places, or even change your fridge or your microwave or something for a newer model. So this can be done having a lot of different methods, a lot of different finance issues, but there's a lot of different ideas to do this. But there's a lot of new products, new business models to be done. So another issue is that we already talked about briefly before. It's how to connect energy consumers to saving energy providers. So how can we just match people that wants to sell and to build to people that wants to save? This easy market access, it's vital, and it's really important, not just in the developed countries, but also in the underdeveloped countries, because the problem is there anywhere. So, for example, EDP Comercial, which is a Portuguese main utility, they developed a platform, a web portal that makes a kind of a middleman between consumers and the efficiency marketplace. So they connect consumers to contractors and to ESCOs and to wherever can do energy efficiency measures. So this platform, which if anyone Googles Safe to Compete, they can go there and take a look. So there's no fuss. So you go there, you choose the measure, you say, I don't know how many lights there is in your place, what's the inclination and orientation of your roof or something, and the system with a clever algorithm, they give you a cost and a payback which is approximate for the reality of the consumer. So you can sign a contract online. You can have on-bill financing available. It's very easy customized. It's very easy to make everywhere. So this kind of platforms, of web portals, of digitalization of the process, it's really important to know what can be done between the contractors, between the equipment brands and representatives, ESCOs, and the consumers. This gives easy access to people. There's no small project, there's no big project for this kind of platforms. So, and lastly, the local energy community. So this is important. This is referred in probably in the last European directive that takes care of all this. So make your own grid, make your own production, your small production, small PV production. You can do this in a building. You can do this in a small neighborhood. You can do this in a small village. But basically, it's to put, for example, solar PV, photovoltaic park to sort out the consumption of a few houses or a few neighborhoods or something. So it's renewable 100% because you are not using the grid, the public grid. It's more cheaper. So there's a lot of advantage doing this. So, and this is, it could be done, I think, everywhere, because the market is here for, I don't know, I think for everyone. There's like the energy services, there's a lot of different views, different ways to see this and to do this, but this will be part of the future, I think, everywhere. So lastly, this is the last slide. I just want to say that having a very nice, flashy net zero building, in the middle of New York City or the middle of London, on site is almost the same as having a slum in the middle of an Asian city. So on paper, they don't consume, they don't have the input of energy, but one have great indoor conditions and the other one has nothing there. So we have to make sure that we sort out the energy poverty, because as soon as people get out the energy poverty area, they will consume more. So we have to make sure that everyone is on board, and that we can keep everyone on board and meeting the emission targets. So we have to address smartly all these issues. So wrapping up, we'll have to rely on the actual building stock to meet the targets, which will be even more difficult as the millions in Asia and Africa have more growth, have more money, and will consume more energy. So with the known consumption, the effort should be made for targeted and simple measures that are easy to implement. The governments have to act through regulation and early market intervention. They have to be enablers of the private sector, which has to address the consumer and the people needs and offering new services and to try to reduce the trend of growing energy consumption in buildings. So I hope you have enjoyed. It's the end of this.
Thank you, Mr. Feliz. That was a perfect presentation. It was amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for your timing, by the way. Your timing
I was looking at my clock, so thank you. I was trying to be on time.
That was really good. Especially the items you highlighted. Those tell us a lot and make us questioning. Thank you for the solutions you suggested. We are very lucky to see you on the forum. And also, dear audience, we also have another speaker, Francesco Paolo Lamacchia, the president of Zero Energy Building Network, Italy. We were in contact, but unfortunately, he couldn't join the session at the last minute. Sorry for this. Thank you, Mr. Feliz, again, for your participation. And we have a question for you, a special question for you, actually.
Yes.
So you are from Portugal, and so we can say both of us are Mediterranean.
Yes, yes, we can.
Italy,
yeah.
Portugal, Greece, Spain, Cyprus, Turkey. So yeah, so zero energy buildings, also passive houses, standards are a bit different for this climate zone. So do you think it has more advantages or
I think generally it has more advantages because you don't have the eating needs that, for example, Sweden or the Northern European countries. So it's easier to have that. Hi, Francesco.
Hello, good morning.
Good
morning. Okay.
Oh, hello.
We are all together. We are very close.
Surprise.
But you are on time, my friend. You are on time.
Yes.
I was
2 minutes. Only 2 minutes. I come back.
We are listening.
I come back.
We are
only
listening.
2 minutes.
Okay, Francesco.
Okay.
Perfect timing.
So
perfect
you are
timing.
still listening your answer, Mr. Feliz? Yes.
I will say that I think it's
yeah.
easier to have this kind of construction here in the Mediterranean countries. We are not used to have the cooling that probably some other places have. We don't have. Probably we are not as rich as other countries, so we don't have the need for some things that may cost a lot of money. So the eating is easier here. So I think we are in a good place to have this kind of technologies. If you see the consumption of end use in buildings in the Southern European, it's very different from the Northern European. So less eating, probably more cooling, but it's easier to I think to work here than in the Northern European countries.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That was a good answer. So I can actually introduce Mr. Lamacchia
because he will pop up soon.
Really, you both of you, your timing is so perfect. Your presentation timing in Lamacchia is coming so perfect. Congratulations, really.
We look like we rehearsed.
So
we
let
look
me
like we rehearsed. We look like it's a kind of a play. So yeah.
Yeah.
But we can't.
Yeah. Like it was a plan, yes. So let me introduce Francesco Paolo Lamacchia. He's from Italy. He attained a master's degree in civil engineering and he obtained the PhD in structural, seismic, and geotechnical engineering at Polytechnic of Milan. In 2001, he made Erasmus project in Belgium at the University of Leek. He acquires an outstanding skill about the technological scientific knowledge transfer method addressed to national and international attendees by bearing more than 10 years of teaching experience at the higher education level. He has founded the first national network for zero energy building in Italy, and after a few years, he has become national president. He was also deputy vice president of the Institute for BIM in Italy, becoming an actor of new digital transition in the building industry. In the last years, Francesco Paolo Lamacchia, I hope it will come back. It will come back, but I cannot see him now. In the last year, Francesco Paolo Lamacchia has participated as a chairman and speaker to a long list of public workshops, seminars, and conferences in the sustainable energy sphere. Mr. Lamacchia is also a technical expert in European funding projects, program, and techniques. His presentation title, Zero Energy Buildings, Richness in the Hands of Everyone. His presentation will give to you the message of an urgent application of this model of buildings by transferring the correct principles of how to do zero energy depending on different climate zones. So I hope he will come back in a few seconds. Let us wait for a few seconds. And in meantime, Miguel Feliz, do you have any additions or last messages to everyone? Oh my God, again, great
Francesco.
You are safe. You are safe, no problem.
Okay.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Mr. Feliz, do you want to continue or do you want to reply this question at the end of the session? What do you
No,
want?
in the end. I want to listen to Francesco.
Okay, as you wish. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
How are you, Lamacchia? Welcome.
Good, but now we are in private, yes?
We can see and hear you. There's no problem. Okay, so in meantime, I introduced you. I talked about you. And
Yes.
if you are ready to begin, you can start your presentation.
Okay, but we are in public. Now we are in public.
Yes.
Public, Francesco.
You are online.
Everyone is listening to you. Public.
Okay.
We all are watching you.
There is a reverberation of my voice. I don't know why.
I'm sorry. If you have earbuds or headphones, that would be so good. Because there's echoes. If you have, we can wait.
We can try. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hello? Yes, we can hear you. Oh. Okay, just wait for a few seconds more. I believe Francesco's timing is perfect too. So he will come back in a few seconds. Sorry for the waiting. Okay, so we have a question for Miguel Feliz. Miguel Feliz?
Oui, here.
So here's the question. How can we stop constructing new buildings and concentrate on existing building stocks for residents?
How can we stop? Well, we will not stop to build new buildings because it will happen, right?
Yes, it will happen. What is the way of concentrate of the existing buildings?
My idea is that we have to take care of the existing buildings. We cannot just think about the new buildings and set up regulations and tools and financing tools for the new buildings, but we have to sort out and to think primarily for the existing buildings, because only that will take us closer to the emission goals that we have. So we have to think about measures, we have to think about financing, we have to think about methods, we have to think about technology, engineering, especially for the existing buildings, because all the others, they will be efficient for sure, right? Because people want efficient things when they buy a new thing.
Hello, Gox, and yes, now maybe it's better. Okay.
Your voice is better now. Okay. I guess there's no echo.
Do you see me well?
Hi, Francesco.
Did you
okay, I can start my presentation.
Yes.
Okay. Please. Thank you for the reply, Miguel Feliz. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do you see my screen?
We are waiting for it. Yes, it's coming. Yes, we can see your screen now.
It's okay?
It's perfect.
You see all?
We can see your whole screen, your entire, but yes.
Okay.
It's just your presentation now. You can please start. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So it's a great pleasure for me to participate in this forum this afternoon, and I will speak about this important topic for all people around the world. And I would like to underline the title of my presentation, because he would like to transfer a message to all regarding the richness coming from the using of zero energy buildings, because there is in many different places across the world a wrong message in which we believe that zero energy building model and high energy efficient building are also something belonging to rich people. So I would like to underline these, and there will be a little speech by starting from a short little slide about our network in Italy, by passing a ban in the European directive, and also to give some consideration about the need of this kind of building. And I will show at the end of my presentation some case studies, 3 case studies in different areas about zero energy building model. So my target group may be in this speech are public and private stakeholders, national and local decision makers, but also energy agency, but above all, professional figure, technician in the construction industry. What is my network? I am the president of this network, and I am also the founder of this large structure in Italy that is based on the 4 actors in the building industry. What means the 4 actors? This means that the building will be built only by the decision of 4 people, of 4 actors. The first one is the professional, that is the designer. The second one is the owner of the building enterprises. The third one is the public administration, and the 4 people, very important, more than the other one, is the buyer of the buildings, the simple citizen, the simple public citizen that are considered at the last of the construction industry. But in our opinion, and in the field and in the speech of energy efficiency, he is the main actor that come before the other one. So there are different relations among different bodies, public and private, in Italy, and we are also in a relation with by means of partnership, for example. What is our location? We are located in the European capital 2019 in Matera, and we are also stimulated by this location because it's the best example that could witness to the world the possibility to live for many thousands of years and to guarantee also the living inside a built environment. If someone know Matera, that is an ancient old village that come from the Netherlands era, and there is a sustainable way to adapt to the nature because each house is made by excavation in the rock, and there is no destroying of the nature, so there is a good and excellent adaptation to the natural conformation. And why the network zero energy building in Italy was important? Because we had from 2010 the European Performance Building Directive that give to all the European members in Italy the possibility to change the building stock in Europe. But the problem was, and maybe the reason still also now, there is a lack in terms of knowledge, and there is a lack also in terms of preparation that could come only by the possibility of realization and also by training program and so on. So we saw the lack, and we started to speak about this topic until 2012. And mission are different because we developed in different way our action from the innovative research project to creation of partnership and also research and development. In fact, if we would like to collect and to resume our action, there are 4 pillars. The first one is the dissemination through European public event. The second one is advanced training to the actor of the construction industry, and participation also in the European funding program, and above all, because our team, whose I am coordinator, we deliver architecture, engineering, and construction services, professional services. So these are the 4 main pillars. Some photo to show you our large relation across Italy in different area, and with many thousands of people during our trip and during our professional journey in terms of training and in terms of public dissemination. Above all, I remember our fundamental operation in the month, the sustainable month of EUSIV, European Sustainable Energy Week, that every year Europe organizes by means of energy days, and in which we are very active by speaking about the energy efficiency target. What about some consideration worldwide? Hello, do you hear me?
Hello, yes, we can hear you.
Thank you.
And thank you for the perfect presentation, Mr. Lamacchia. That was amazing. Thank you so much. Actually, we had a question for Mr. Feliz, and I want to ask that to you too, because that was a great question. So you are from Italy, and as we talked with Mr. Feliz, he's from Portugal, and as you know, we all are Mediterraneans. And sorry.
Hello. Yes.
Yes.
My presentation is not finished. My presentation is not finished.
So, no, live problems, so it can be happening, so there's no problem. So we can say both of us are Mediterranean, Italy, Portugal, Turkey, Greece, Spain. So do you think it has more advantages or disadvantages for zero energy buildings? Also, passive houses standards are a bit different for our climate zones. Is this a good thing or is this a bad thing? What do you think about that?
Question.
So I asked, zero energy buildings, also passive houses standards are a bit different for our climate zone.
Yes.
For Italy, Portugal, for Mediterranean countries, as Greece, Turkey. So do you think it has more advantages or disadvantages?
No, it's not advantages. There is in the continuous of my presentation, there will be specification about the importance of the bioclimatic approach to deliver zero energy building model depending on different climate zone. Zero energy building, I think it's not only a topic or an investment for Northern Europe country or only for Southern Europe country, because I think that it's a model winning. It's a winning model for everyone, because we know from many years, from many researchers in the past time, we have a lot of techniques and a lot of devices and technology now, and this technology are accessible to all at a low price. So
Francesco, you should finish your presentation with your case studies. You should finish it,
yes,
because
of course.
yes, maybe it's better. So some consideration, because there is important reflection about this map. This map show the many areas that are not electrified, and we are in progress. No, we are a society in which we are developing. So my question to all audience is how we think to guarantee the living in one house or a building in this area, for example, and how we think to develop the low developed countries if we don't adopt zero energy building. So I see from starting from this reflection that the only model to save us and to save the planet and to save the life of many people is only by adopting strongly and fastly this kind of model named zero energy building. At the same time, you know, there are some last news of 2 days, 3 days before, in which we are fitting of curve that are like exponential in terms of temperature, and at the same time the 90% of the world is based on the fossil fuel, but the worst event is that in the same time we have a Paris Agreement and a lot of policy, the emission continue to grow. And what is the response? Because planet is not in the end of everyone, but it's in the end of some important continent like Europe. And I know my country, Italy, that belongs to Europe, and I could speak about the framework and the policy that will characterize our future in the field of built environment. And we have, and I would like to show also to many people that don't live in Europe, a Green Deal, the European Green Deal, that see until 2050, and in which we has realized a first step in 2020 now in this year, but the progress start from many years ago, 10 years ago, because the main directive that drive the built environment in terms of high energy efficiency was the three important directives. The first one about energy performance of building, the second one about renewable energy source, and the third one regarding energy efficiency above all in the public buildings. But these main three directives now has been updated, and we have this list. So I would like to resume the action of this policy, and I would like to give to all the audience also some important reference and to push them to tackle and to study in depth this kind of directive. And what is the main achievement by means of this last European directive? There is important consideration about the integration of building with the electric mobility. So a new concept in which we would like to produce in the place we live the same energy we use in the mobility. And the second is the introduction and integration in the building of the artificial intelligence. So that means the smart readiness indicator that are based on 10 sectors, for example. So these are the new trend and the new skill that many professionals will achieve and will acquire in the soon future, the very soon future. So by starting from the fundamental directive, we had in 2010, 10 years ago, in the article of the European Directive Energy Performance Building Directive, the definition of nearly zero energy building. That is a building with low consumption, but at the same time, profit of the energy coming from renewable energy source, not only far away from the building, but maybe also on site, near to the building. But pay attention to the definition and the use of acronym, because I would like to underline that zero energy building and ZEB is not only the acronym of zero energy building. It could be zero emission building, and that is another concept more deep in sense of technical concept. And there are also the presence of letter N, majuscule or minuscule. So there are different possibility to define. And by resume, what we will consider this kind of building? We have two paths. We have two possibilities. A green possibility represented by the green line, or red possibility. So we can conceive an independent building, the so-called standalone building, in which we produce all energy we use, detached by the national grid, electrical national grid. Or we can exchange and we can link to the electrical national grid, and we can have an equal balance between the delivered energy and exported energy, as the sketch show. The second important pillar to consider for tackling this kind of model named zero energy building is also the approach in terms of existing building, because we have a building stock full of many not saving measures. So we have the need to decrease the energy demand before we will renovate them. So after decreasing energy demand, we can supply energy by renewable energy source, and we can walk on the row, on the orange low in vertical position, until we are in the diagram, in the exact diagram in the middle point, as the sketch is representative. So why, after this consideration, we must be aware and we must take care about the built environment, and why we must speak about protocol or guideline or standard and so on, because it's not possible now, due to our needs of comfort and high standard level in terms of wellness. It's not possible to speak only about structure and envelope, but we need air conditioning, so we must integrate equipment. And it's not only sufficient to speak about envelopment and equipment, because the building interacts with the environment. And once we finish the building, the problem starts from the end of the realization of the building, because there is a driver of that building, that is so-called user, that will maintenance and will drive that building in the best way. So it's the same example of a car, in which if you have a user or a driver that is not well educated, it could consume a lot. And if we haven't a user that is well educated to consume low quantity of energy, we can go until a great problem. And I will show some other example of this one. Why we must start by bioclimatic approach? The first consideration is that the bioclimatic approach has driven the world and the built environment of all ancient historical centers across the world. So we cannot delay this experience, but we at the same time we have experimented that in that historical center we live fresh during the summer and not so cold during the winter. And in that era, there weren't insulated thermal material. So there is maybe an approach, a winning approach to start in this consideration. And I remember to all, the climate different zone was a topic very studied, not yesterday, but many years ago. My mind go to Victor Olje, for example, that was the first to write a great book named Design with Climate, in which he divided the world in 4 great areas, depending on the 4 great climate conditions. And if you see the glue, normally we cannot use a model that it's possible, a model built, for example, in Norway, and we can consider to adopt it in Cyprus, for example. So the use of a standard for all, it's not a possible way to have a success, I think, because we must guarantee the freedom of each designer worldwide, and we must also adapt the building to the climate zone. And moreover, we must satisfy also the wishes and the needs of our client, our commitment that pay the building and with their money wants to do what they want. So how after this consideration, what is the implementation? And after the bioclimatic approach, what happened? Maybe we would like to see each cities like in this photo with the same panorama, because we have the integration of the renewable energy source, the integration of technology, and unfortunately, we don't see this in each country or in each city. And what is the solution? I mean, one solution, for example, active house or zero energy house. What means it's an house without gas, completely electricity based, by self-production of renewable energy, and with an innovative approach in terms of design, because the design of the building is bespoke on the wishes of the user. So there is, after this kind of design, a user adaptive method to personalize the building to the user life. And this is very, very important, because I remember our building and our house is like a big car that costs 10 times than a car. So in what way we can transform without gas, for example, and in what way we can profit also the particular components of the building, these renewable energy source. the internal wall maybe could be transformed by electrical panel that give us irradiation heating, or for cooking we use inductive electrical cooking, or electrical layer for heating in the floor, above all in old ancient building, or in the balcony, in the outside we have a lot of space in which we can transform the vertical position in vertical using of solar PV plant. And there are many examples. The most famous was more than 15 years ago, in 2003, the famous Sonnerschiff in Germany. And this is for me very reflective, because if I think to the sun that could produce the southern part of Europe, this kind of model could be for me a standard, for example, because if we transform completely the roof in a PV plant, all the sun that fall down in Italy or the Mediterranean basin could transform our life, our money, our richness, and so on. But until now, we don't see this. And why? We are all responsible, I think, and we must act all together to give and to replicate this kind of model. Maybe one reason for the lack of this kind of building. I remember in my studies that when I take my degree, there wasn't a particular course about the integration of renewable energy sources. So maybe many professionals worldwide are not usual to integrate this kind of system, these relatively young technologies. But if I show this picture, you can see that simply a gray concrete building, like the photo at the right below, that is the USA embassy in Geneva, Switzerland. It has been completely transformed by excellent integration of a blue panel into the gray facade of concrete of the building. And maybe we need to take courage, because there are ancient, very ancient and very typical possibility to project also PV plant. Because another strong message is that maybe PV plant doesn't function in vertical position. But this is not correct, because there is a loss of production. But there is also in many areas, like in Austria or in Germany, where the sun has less production, high producibility and possibility to give the energy they want. So we need to be encouraged. Another important pillar that I would like to underline is that when we design a zero energy building with high energy efficiency standard, we risk to fall down, because it is declared that when you have an electric house, you could have a good expenses in terms of electricity using. So pay attention to the matter that when you use or you design a zero energy building, you must take under control the possibility, and you must realize in the building ICT controller. So you are obliged to use ICT measure. So, for example, building automation. You must use ecolabel devices, and you know, like if you use not well devices under ecolabel, you can have a lot of expenses, and above all, you need awareness. What means awareness? You need to know the building in which you would like to live better than the owner of the enterprise build. So the awareness coming from a guideline, for example, from a training program that each owner of enterprise after realization will give to the buyer of the apartment. And why the car is very similar to the building, in our opinion? Because if you reflect, we has underlined that zero energy building needs a control. But in what way it is possible, this control? In each car there is a dashboard. Why in the zero energy building model there aren't dashboard, or in all buildings in Europe there aren't dashboard? This is a great luck, I think, because when you are an household see the dashboard of the energy consumption, it can change fastly their behavior inside the building. So another.
So, Mr. Lamacchia, you are going so well. Sorry for the interruption again. I just want to say we have the last 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. So I can conclude with the real cases if we want, because after this perspective, we are also new technology in which integration between living and mobility. Now there are in the market also cars that could guarantee the battery and electric storage in a high energy efficient building. So there is a possibility to cover also early the production and the needs of an electric mobility. But we go to the 3 examples. The first one concerning social housing, because we have in social housing market the problem based on the low level, not prepared people that go to live inside, because there are not all engineers that live in a social housing, but the major part of people are not prepared to tackle an high energy efficient building. So what we have done in Italy, and we have published, for example, because we have this example in the southern part of Italy, in Lecce, in front of Albania, in the Tallinn of Italy, in which we have regenerated a district, and in which we have transformed from old construction to new construction these 2 buildings, and we have put the renewable energy source on the rooftop, also for the solar thermal integration, and the best target, the best aim we have achieved is the change of the mind of everyone. Because my in person, I followed these people. Pardon. In person, I follow these people, and I gave you the training program about the use of these kind of people, of buildings. So we had a low consumption of energy bill, and we had a completely different approach of user in this kind of building. Another important study we have tackled past time is the witness, in which we can calculate, and we have done this, a zero energy building in a portion of land of southern part of Europe, for example, Rhodos Island, very close to Turkey, and in which there is a lot of tourism. So we are going to another important sector, that is the hospitality industry, in which, if you reflect, there is a good leverage to change Europe very fast, because many people pass through an hospitality building, an hotel, for example, in Italy, in 1 year, there are many people in 1 year that sleep in an hotel. And if we change the hotel before the residential sector, maybe we can change fastly the mind and we can have replication of that model also in their residential building. So in this portion of land, we have witnessed that by using a local approach in terms of material coming from the island of Rhodes, and by have the operation during winter and summer of a shape of the building that function well depending on the sloping of the sun, we have a great energy results because the aesthetical shape and the functionality could arrive to this diagram, in which we have the 50% generated from renewable energy source, and there are also surplus of energy that is used to produce hydrogen for mobility, for example. I showed this number also in this other table, in which we have the 50% for electric generation from photovoltaic solar, and surplus used for the production of hydrogen. So why this is possible with a minimum effort? Because Rhodes Island is the best place in Europe under the European law, in which there are the bigger producibility in the Europe. So there are also the possibility in which we can profit a lot. So there are a paper published in the international journal in which you can check and you can follow this calculation. The second and the third one example is the zero energy village in Matera, Italy, southern part of Italy, in which we are realizing 6 independent villas. This village was certified for the first time under the Zero Energy Building Network in Italy, and as a particular technical solution in which we have integration of renewable energy source on the rooftop, but also an equipment that is based in a cooling heating floor system, mechanical control ventilation, solar collector for domestic hot water, and an electric heat pump air water. So there are a number that guarantee, for example, that by 10 kilowatt we can cover also the completely sufficiency of the energy need. And the best important feature of this building is also the envelope, because we built this envelope in a wall of 55 centimeters, in which we have also insulated material, but the major part of the wall is made by a typical stone of Matera that is named tufo, that is natural in our territory, and that is accessible also at low price and also at 0 kilometer. So I thank you because I finished this presentation, and I am available to answer and to reflect with you about question and other discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Lamacchia. Thank you for the presentation, and sorry for the interrupt you twice. The first one was I thought you couldn't continue the presentation because of technical problems. But fortunately, it was resolved, and we listened to the whole presentation with a great pleasure. Also, for the question I asked, our audience got the answer in your presentation, so thank you so much. And dear audience, by the way, our time is running out for this session, and also our time is running out for our world. Because of that, thank you for your participation, Mr. Feliz, Mr. Lamacchia. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to listen to you. Thank you to whole audience for giving us their precious time and being with us. So I will do the session, please,
Thank you so much.
unless you have any additions or last messages.
No, thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Francesco.
Yeah, I hope to see you at future meetings and collaborations, especially about passive houses or zero energy buildings in our climate zones.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you.